Hi, everyone. I'm Amber from Educating All Learners Alliance, EALA for short. EALA is a coalition of over 145 organizations committed to supporting students with learning differences through resources, programs, and events. Our website features a tech tool library filled with accessible resources, and today we're excited to have Whitney highlight Newsela, a key tool for our collection.
Hi there, my name is Whitney Noel, and I'm here to talk to you about Newsela and how we promote accessibility and access across our platform. I'm going to be talking about this in two different ways today. So first, how Newsela really promotes access and equity in the way that we publish, curate, and create content, and also how we're CAG compliant, and as a platform, students can access the platform in any way that they need to, whether that be through a screen reader, making sure that we have the right color contrast for students, or if they need to navigate the platform with a keyboard, they can do all of that in Newsela. The bulk of our time together, I will be talking about the way we publish content. But as I mentioned, the entire platform is navigable by students using any sort of accessibility tool. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Newsela is an instructional content platform. And what we do is we take content from vetted publishers and we make that content what we say is classroom ready. We do that by doing quite a few things to the texts. So let's dive into this text about animals, shelter dogs, so I can explain some of those different features. So we have about 17,000 pieces of text in our platform today. We publish at least 2 new pieces of content every single day from one of our over 100 publishers, with the max level being the authentic piece. So you can see that this came from the Washington Post. This was the text as it was published. You'll see that this runs at about a 7th grade reading level, and it'll tell me my word count and also the maturity level of the text. The max piece, as I said, is the authentic piece. You'll notice that we layer over some vocabulary and different tooling, but this is as if they had read it on the Washington Post. We then take that text and we level it down 4 additional levels. So this one goes down to about a 3rd grade level. And you'll notice a lot of things changed. So we make changes based on a bunch of different layers of text complexity, including word choice, sentence length, paragraph length, word count, also building an additional background knowledge as needed with lower levels of the text to make sure that if a student is reading about the Constitution at a 2nd grade reading level, that they have the context that they need to really engage with that. You'll notice, like I mentioned, some vocabulary tooling built in. We always want to be providing some access and really promoting academic achievement for students. So these blue words are actually tier 3 words or subject-specific vocabulary, and you'll see a student-friendly definition here that can be read aloud. The blue words are what we call power words, and these are tier 2 vocabulary terms. Again, can be read aloud and a student-friendly definition. About 30% of our content is also available in Spanish at all 5 levels. I'll show you what the Spanish looks like, and then just know that the features and functionality that I talk about function on top of the Spanish text as well. So you'll see that tier 3 vocabulary, the texts are of course leveled, and these are actually done by hand by our team. We also provide a bunch of different opportunities for teachers to assess student understanding and really understand where are my students at and what else can I provide them to make sure that they can access the content we're engaging with. So you'll notice at the top of any text, there's a poll. This is a great opportunity for teachers to say, are you familiar with this topic? Do you care about this topic? Does this topic make you feel a certain way? Does it excite or interest you? So they can use any of our pre-created polls, or they can actually create one from scratch. There's also that power words activity. So the tier 2 vocabulary, they can be assessed and practice and actually build out their own word wall on the student side. There is a quiz on every single text, and each quiz assesses 2 standards. If you are in South Carolina, you'll see your standards. If you're in Texas, you'll see the TEKS. So every state across the country that partners with Newsela can see the standards that they need. And each standard will be assessed twice. These quizzes are vertically aligned. So at the top level, if I'm assessing my students on central or main idea, if I level it all the way down, they'll be assessed on that same vertical standard, but really at a level that my students can access. And then finally, there is a customizable write prompt on every text. The blue being written by our team, leveled against the grade band, so elementary, middle, or high. And the white is actually an AI generated one. So if I don't have exactly what I need, or if I don't want to customize it, I can look for something else AI generated here. As students are navigating any text, they can also choose to toggle on and off paragraph count. This can be really helpful if they are accessing, part of a text, or they want to cite evidence from a text. They can turn on and off read aloud.
Seeking motivation, high school athletes run with shelter dogs by the Washington Post, adapted by Newsela staff.
You'll notice that the words are tracked by the read aloud as it goes. So that can be really helpful for kiddos if they're, working in fluency, or if they're emergent bilingual students, or they need some additional support at reading at grade level. Students can speed up or slow down the read aloud. They can start over, go back. So they really have a lot of power over that functionality. So those are some of the features that are available on all 17,000 pieces of text. We level our informational text, not our fiction pieces, but our fiction pieces still have read aloud and annotations and all of those other tools that really support students as they're engaging with the content. In terms of print accessibility and digitally assigning, I can print any text or text set with any of the associated activities. So we know that for some kiddos, they are better, it's a better experience for them to engage with a printed material, and so you can certainly do that. If I want to assign digitally, I have a couple choices I can make to promote further accessibility to my kids. So first choice I can make here is what level I want to assign out at. I can say I want all of my students to be assigned out at their level. So this could mean third grader reading at a third grade level would see that text, whereas my third grader reading at a fifth grade level would see the text at the fifth grade. If I want to lock them all into rigorous grade level, I can do that. I can also decide whether or not my students can change the level. So maybe I lock my third graders in, but coach them to say, if you need to level it down or up, this is how you do it and this is why, or I can turn that off. I can also hide the level for my students. They will never see the grade level equivalent, but they can see the Lexile. And if you think that's going to be a barrier for your kiddos, or that is going to stress them out, I would hide that level. Then when I'm assigning, I can decide if I want to assign out the same assignment to my whole class or to small groups across classes. So I can select which students might need additional supports or additional extensions, depending on who I'm assigning to, and really curate the experience for them. I'll set the day I want it assigned. I'll decide whether or not I want them to use read aloud functionality, and whether or not I want them to toggle back and forth between English and Spanish, or Spanish to English. And then I can assign out. As I said, the entire platform can be read by a screen reader. They can also navigate by keyboard. So some great ways that students can navigate if they're using any accessibility tool. In terms of our curations, our content is fully accessible, as I showed you. If you're using Newsela Lite, which is our free product, you will be able to access 4 pieces of content at a time. And we'll publish a new piece of content every week for the free users, and then one piece will drop off. So you will still have the leveling, the write prompt, the annotation functionality, all of that will be available to you. If you are in a school or a district that has access to one of our premium products, like Newsela ELA, Social Studies, Science, or Social Emotional Learning, you'll find some additional content and curations. That'll open up that entire 17,000 library. That'll open up that entire library of 17,000 pieces of content. So let's take a peek at one of the curations in Newsela ELA, just as an example. On my left-hand panel here, I'll find all my curations. This includes things like curriculum complements if I'm using a core curricula, my novels and book studies, and some seasonal and thematic content here at the top. So I find some great stuff for the Summer Olympics and for Independence Day, as that's coming up this week. Favorite fiction and poetry. But I'm actually going to start us in novel and book studies just to show what that experience looks like and why I might use that to promote accessibility for my students. We have published over 450 novels, books, or plays, so you should likely find almost anything you need. If you don't see what you need here, you can complete the survey to request a new novel. So let's say I'm teaching my middle schoolers The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. What I'll notice right away is that it's a text set anywhere from 6, 12 plus pieces of content. This often includes video. You'll find poetry and fiction and explainer texts and current events, all intermingled in these text sets. And the reason that we do that is we know that every student in every class might need some different knowledge or different background knowledge building opportunities. So all of these pieces of content can be assigned out, as I said, small group, whole group, the entire text set, just a couple texts. So you have a lot of choices there on how you leverage this. On the right-hand side is where I'll find my teacher guidance. So the first thing here is why these texts and videos. That's the rationale for why I would use this. And it gives me a quick look at why these were chosen, so I don't have to read every text to decide how I could use it. For example, the first videos give background on Elizabeth Acevedo and the narrative structure she uses to craft the book. If I'm talking about author's craft, that could be a really great selection to use. And then just down below, I'll find how to use with students. This will give me a couple different pathways because we know that teachers will find these useful in different moments in time. So the first example is an introductory task. Again, you'll find throughout our lesson sparks that we're really promoting accessibility at every step of the way, using graphic organizers when appropriate, like this jigsaw example, giving extension opportunities and remediation opportunities if that's appropriate. We really want students engaging with the content and their peers. So most of these lessons you'll find have some sort of interactive or collaborative experience embedded. And as I mentioned, these can all be assigned out to whole group, small group, at the level of your choosing, or printed. And if for those students who need to use accessibility tools like a screen reader, they can do that on the content as well. One thing to note about our video content is that we have a searchable transcript on every video. This can be really great for students if they're emergent bilinguals, if they're maybe just needing kind of some additional support there. But they can also find in here a specific word that they heard to go back to that moment in time. Each video also has these hotspot check for understandings to pause students to really consider what they've heard so far. So it's a great opportunity to kind of slow students down and make sure that they're really engaging. They can set the pace of the video, of course, and they can go forward and backward as needed. I'm going to hop over to Newsela Science to show you a curriculum complement, but know that we have curriculum complements across ELA, Social Studies, and Science. So what we've done with these is we've taken those core publisher materials like Amplify Science, HMH, McGraw-Hill, and I will find a collection of resources that's directly aligned to the topics, themes, and standards of the units as outlined by my core publisher material. So let's say I'm a 5th grade teacher. I'm teaching Unit 2 on ecosystems. I'll find materials that really support my students as we go through the unit. We know that teachers are always looking for great supplementary materials that can build background knowledge, make the content more relevant, fill in any knowledge gaps that students might have. And that's really what these collections are meant to do. So you'll often see explainer texts and science in the news in this case. In social studies, you'll see primary sources and famous speeches. And in ELA, you'll see additional fiction and poetry pieces. So as I said, Newsela is really meant to be both accessible content and an accessible platform. We want to make sure that every student in every classroom, no matter their reading level, gets to engage with stuff that excites them and interests them and really makes them feel excited to be at school and get those opportunities for windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. Let us know how we can help you. We're really excited and enthusiastic to go into the next school year and can't wait to see what your students do.